For many past years, our society and people were deeply trying to research about space and have more knowledge about space. And there has been a huge amount of research and experiment about with space. And that shows that being able to have more knowledge about space is hugely important. And so this house believes that government should aggressively fund space exploration and technologies, and this will be greatly beneficial for our society. And as the Prime Minister, I will be presenting about 2 points. First, scientific discovery. Second, technological innovation. And first, I'll be presenting scientific discovery. So space exploration it will expand our understanding and knowledge about space. From the origins of planets to the possibility of extraterrestrial life like aliens. And government-funded missions like those conducted by NASA have led to groundbreaking discoveries such as presence of water on Mars or the detection of exoplanets. And example of Mars exploration. Over the past few years, NASA's Mars exploration program revealed its mind-blowing clues about the mysterious planet's past and present conditions. Our curiosity uncovered evidence of ancient lakes, river channels, and minerals that suggest the planet was once much warmer and wetter than it is today. And these kinds of findings have implications for understanding of Mars's potential habitability and the possibility of past or present life on that planet. And mapping the universe. Government-funded space agencies such as NASA operate telescopes and observatory that map the space in various wavelengths of light, from radio waves to X-rays. And these kinds of telescopes can enable the distribution of dark matter and dark energy, which comprise the majority of the universe's mass and energy. And moving on to my second point, technological innovation. Many everyday technologies have roots in space exploration, including satellite communication, GPS navigation, and medical imaging devices. And investing in space technologies often yields unexpected spin-off benefits that can improve life on Earth and carry on the economic growth and more kinds of benefits. And there can be a huge development in satellite communication, which can expand our communication between people on Earth and people on satellites, which is in space. And GPS navigation, it can develop the quality of GPS navigation and include more spaces that can be able to use navigation. And medical imaging devices, which can like more precisely look at which can develop X-rays that can more precisely look at your bones. And environmental monitoring, which can care about the environmental more deeply. And lastly, economic growth. And not only these, but if the government supports more aggressively and with more money, there can be more developments that we don't notice right now, and will be very beneficial for our society. And just for summary, I first pointed out the scientific discovery and the benefits of scientific discovery, and second, the technological innovation that will happen if the government more aggressively supports the space exploration. And for these reasons, proud to propose.
So, Mr. Speaker, we don't agree to the point that it is greatly beneficial to explore space science. So that we really agree with that point that we should do it. But we are saying that companies was the one who actually should do it because it's more efficient at the first place and it is profit driven with more flexibility and better motivation as well. Since it is really own profit driven and due to profit like moon mining, they have more flexibility, so they have a better development compared to the government, right? So they give an example of a NASA that NASA has been developing good and then they have good technology. But I would like to rebut to this point is that NASA hasn't developed the technology for almost more than 60 years, but SpaceX and these companies have developed constantly for year by year, so their technology is so much better, right? And then they said, and then if they say they want to keep having benefits on actually having an economic boost. The ones and the efficient ones is to actually support and then do the companies actually doing it, because at the first place I talk about the profit driven companies and they have good technology compared to the governments and the other people, right? And then moving on to our setup, right? So we definitely agree with space exploration, and we can have good economy like moon mining, finding other planets to live. But we believe that as a conclusion that the companies are the ones who should actually do it because they have better technology at the first place, and it'll be a disadvantage to the government to actually spend tremendous amount of money actually trying to find out what the technology is, right? So moving on to our first segment is what we should encourage private companies to do instead, right? But for example, the NASA is already so underfunded, right? So companies like Deep Blue and SpaceX is the main actor in today's debate, right? So why was NASA made in the back days, right? Nobody could do actually good technology like NASA, but right now in the reality, many companies like Deep Blue or SpaceX are doing it better, right? Right? And they have way better technology. Now we have private companies that are already moon mining, already way ahead of NASA, right? So we believe that these companies are the ones who actually have the better technology and the better potential, right? So they're already better than NASA right now. They have flexibility, being a profit-driven company. They're really motivated for large amount of gold and rare earth minerals in outer space and better technology, right? So the motivation they have is we believe that the most creative and the most motivated person should do it like this, right? SpaceX, they're really motivated and they're profit-driven, right? They like moon mining and more economic benefits, and they want to find rare earth minerals, right? So we believe that they have the right technology to actually have these potential and have a better company driven than actual NASA, because they are actually profit driven. They can do actually really well. They want to actually have a benefit on their running their company, right? So we have to put the government's role to theirs and the company roles to theirs, right? So NASA only they could do it, but right now, but we can have these private corporation can also do it because they mine resources and actually get these things better, right? That is why government should step out of this situation, right? So the government's role is to like help the citizens and do like this, right? But if we say that the government would fund tremendously to these companies, the citizens won't be actually really happy for that also, right? Because they pay taxes, but the taxes just go to waste to actually these companies. And we believe that citizens are not going to hear the good news that we are going to actually fund companies, right? Now moving on to our second argument, and this perfectly leads to the ineffective uses of taxes, right? So the government is already too behind, right, to catch up to SpaceX, Deep Blue, and these private corporations, and we need to spend so much money to actually build rockets and decent technology, and this is not effective in terms of the money we have to actually spend that the taxes we are giving, right? These technologies are built by a private corporation, but why actually make another if you already have them that is a better version of them, right? Then this will only hurt your private company as a SpaceX. It's going to actually compete with the government, right? This is undermining the best company and your company who is already well developed compared to these government, right? Also, SpaceX and these space exploration companies will get more pressure than make a competitor, which would be the government versus these companies. So this is a huge disadvantage to actually the government and also the companies, where their process will actually get slowed down. And as a conclusion, the companies, the private corporations such as SpaceX, they actually have a better potential and have a better society. And yes, thank you.
Judge, opposition thinks that we shouldn't continue space exploration throughout space. In a world where we're developing technologies on Earth, we should also be exploring space and get better technology and other benefits. Currently, we are using Earth resources, but there's clearly a limit on it. We can't use it forever when there's so many people using Earth resources. For example, oil takes like a long time, generally, even centuries sometimes. However, if we, and there's like limit on it, if we use it all, that we're only stuck with the renewable resources. We don't have that much advancement in technology. However, if you get resources from space, what then we can have a surplus amount of energy that we can't even think of it that we can use to help ourselves. In my speech, I'll be elaborating on why we should aggressively fund space exploration and technologies. Before that, rebuttals. So our leader opposition told us that the companies are the ones who should do it and that more technological benefits, and it's the disadvantage to the government because it spends too much money, and private companies which are more motivated will do. However, if we look at our progress, the last person I believe that went to the moon was in 1971. It's 2024, but people like are not correctly landing on the moon, and people don't know about it well. So we can, and look, if you look at our total progress, we don't have a lot of developments. some people say in 2024 we will be like landing on like Mars or something, but right now we can't even people are not even like ready, like fully ready to go on the moon. So we can see that there's no technological uh, development with only the companies. So we believe that the governments can help them, and like not competition, but we can help them, and governments can also do their things to like develop space technologies to further develop society. So our team's final argument is that if we continue space exploration and technologies, we can get tons of economic benefits. So economic benefits. So in a space, there are plentiful amount of resources that we can use. So space is a big place, and even expanding. So even if we have all the resources we can, we'll probably not even be able to use all of them. So if we use the resources to help with our money, resources, and problems on Earth, we can like make a better society. So what is the problem on Earth? For example, so there in Africa, there's many people who are suffering from because of starving and water. But with that money earned from space exploration, we can have a developed society where people cannot suffer. So how are we going to get those resources, and how are we going to get a lot of resources in a short amount of time? So, for example, in the planet Uranus, which is in our solar system, and also Neptune, deep inside, scientists say that is raining diamonds. Diamonds are considered expensive and rare on Earth, while on other planets it could just be common rocks. So we can use this type of resources to help our people on Earth and help our society develop to a better place. And with this amount of money, we can, like I said, we can help people in Africa, developing countries, and like problems in Earth, such as the starving kids and the kids who need water. Currently, we can't even reach like many places properly. And we can't even reach Mars, which is like right next, is closest planet to Earth. But the only place we have reached is the moon. And we reached the moon even in 1971, and so like and before, but we can't. We're still in 2024, but we can't even reach it properly. We see that there's not a lot of like advancements technology that we think, so we should like try to do furthermore space exploration. Like a PMS said, the space is really big. We don't even know how big it is. There are so many benefits in space, like the PMI said, such as scientific discovery, technological advancements, and economic benefits. And it can make our human civilization into a better place. However, in the counterfactual, in the opposition world, people are suffering because of the limited resources and technologies they have. However, in our world, people will be more advanced and have less problems in Earth and space because of the benefits from the space exploration. So that's why we take this debate home, and thank you.
Mrs. Speaker, it's not that we don't like hate or disagree with space exploration, right? We say that space exploration is a good thing. Moon mining, Mars, and all of these advantages that the government side have talked about, we all agree with these things, right? But we don't think that this is a debate about like the benefits of space exploration, since both sides agree that the space exploration is amazing. We think that it's a debate about the actor of who does the space exploration, right? The government argues for the government to aggressively fund, while we argue for the companies to fund. And we like to clarify that before going into our rebuttals. Now, with that, let's move on to our rebuttals. The first rule that I have is that firstly they talked about how we argued that companies are still like the ones that have better technology than us, right? And it is very inefficient for the government to to keep up with the SpaceX and spend huge amounts of money on that when they have companies where they can encourage that are already well developed, right? Where they can actually use these kinds of money to actually like fund maybe poverty or try to solve global warming and other like efficient uses of these huge amounts of money, right? But then they talked about how Neil Armstrong was the last one to go to the moon. Well, this is not true, since lots of this is not true because there has been other people who have gone in the past decade to the moon as well. But then like the thing about this is that the companies right now are so advanced that they actually send like a robots to the space so that they can explore. Like space is literally like planning to moon mine right now, and that they have a technology that the government has never even dreamed of, like sending one rocket and like an airplane going back to the space and also coming out. So we think that this clearly proves that space exists better, and it is very inefficient for the government to actually do this, right? But then so therefore we think that we agree with good resources. Moon mining, they have lots of like helium-3, which can be used for nuclear infusion. It's not just rocks, it's piles of gold, so it's good for the economy. But we just think that the government should do its role, where they can encourage these SpaceX like companies and send them out as the main actor of the market, instead of trying to catch up with this, which is just simply logically inefficient, right? But then what does the government actually tell us in these cases? They have no alternative, no mechanism, but they just tell us the benefits of like just space exploration, right? So we think that in these cases, we think that like the companies is just a much better solution if you think about it, Mr. Speaker. So with this, let's move on to our next argument, the third argument, which is like what is associated with the government, right? This can cause tension between other countries. Imagine like Russia and USA, they're very like tight, right? But then USA claims or tries to like develop so much of like their technology to claim the moon, right? Then the Russia would also try to do this, and the space war will happen again, and then everyone is going to like develop space technologies, and there's just going to be too much conflicts between the countries and tensions in these countries, right? So if we make it into like a race of countries, it'll be a space war again, and there's going to be so much tension. Like if Russia, if US invades the moon or privatize the moon, then they can use it as their second base. These are all things that countries can do if they have privatized things, right? But then if we make it into a race of companies, there's going to be less conflicts that both sides agree, which is our main goal, to have benefits that are associated with like space exploration. So we think that like the race of making into a race of companies are actually like in a term of like trading and these kind of tension between the countries and relationship between the countries. We think that the companies are a better choice to actually achieve the oppositions and government's common goal. So we think that our side can do this much efficiently without conflicts. So we think that our side actually takes the debate home in many aspects of this debate. Thank you.
Since the 1950s, we have been discovering and unveiling space. With remarkable missions like Apollo 11, we discovered what was not known back then. These discoveries led to us seeing beautiful and gorgeous sights of the universe. Not only that, recently big companies like Amazon and Tesla are making spaceships to provide us with a better internet anywhere on Earth with the Starlink, as well as the ability to space travel as a civilian. Also, companies collaborated with NASA making new technological discoveries, and now the topic of space has become more controversial than ever, and that's why we're talking about this in our debate. Now, I'd like to move on to my clarification. First, space travel started as a race for space between the US and the Soviet Union. During the space race, the Americans and the Soviets discovered extraordinary discoveries, like being able to look at the back of the moon and landing on the moon. Although looking at the back of the moon may seem insignificant to you, it's an extremely important discovery as it helps scientists know how the moon was formed, which just proves the point of Dylan, the PM. Moving on, with the space race continuing, many new discoveries were made, but eventually the collapse of the Soviet Union halted the exploration of space. Since then, NASA has been gradually underfunded, and we are not able to make significant discoveries. However, since the 2010s, government funding increased by a huge margin, and countless civilian companies worked with NASA to create better rockets like the Falcon 9 and the SLS. They made landing technologies and satellite technologies that no one could catch. One company went as so far as to make an entire new satellite network called Starlink, which you could access internet anywhere on Earth. A step closer to the technological revolution, which Dylan clearly showed here. This was economically beneficial for companies as people bought those products, just like what Brian said. This clearly shows how we should aggressively fund space exploration and the benefits that come with it. Now, I would like to move on to my clashes. In the LO's first argument, the LO stated that we should increase funding on companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin. The opposition clearly doesn't get the point.
You know what?
Yeah.
We never talked about how the government should fund the SpaceX, but we said we should like let the government step out of the market and then let SpaceX like more creatively without even a little bit of competition, like just go straight on and develop further.
Here we could like raise a question as NASA and then SpaceX are already collaborating, and then basically your argument is saying that NASA should like help SpaceX and Blue Origin, like companies like that, to discover new technologies, which just clearly shows how like you're saying that increasing funding on like companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin. And then now I will move on to my argument again. However, the opposition clearly doesn't get the point. Our motion is about how the governments should aggressively fund space exploration and technologies in general. This doesn't mean that NASA is going to spend all the funds in developing spacecraft. Not only that, the LOs said how the superior techs are made by only private companies. However, this is totally not true, as technologies created by civilian-owned companies were built with NASA and then. Not only that, the government already landed on the moon back in the 70s, and the SpaceX hasn't even landed there yet. We're talking about decades. This just shows how NASA has a proven way, while privately owned companies do not have a proven way. Not only that, even though we all know that other countries are not capable of space exploration, as countries have never landed on the moon, and not only that, only a few amount of countries ever visited space before. However, the opposition completely denied the truth and stated that funding exploration and technology aggressively will create a new conflict. This just raises the question if the opposition is clearly thinking about the motion or not.
Before moving on to the most debated point in today's debate, I would like to refute the speakers that have spoken before me. So, firstly, they have stated things like, oh, like we read the motion like incorrectly because like it says like we're only going to fund, we're not going to like pour all our funds into NASA. Well, it literally says we're going to aggressively fund, and if you know the definition of aggressively, it means to do and a lot, like do a lot and focus all your energy into it. Plus, if you don't fund NASA aggressively, it won't do anything because NASA hasn't developed anything for 60 years, right? And as a result, if you don't literally aggressively fund NASA, you won't be able to do anything. Plus, like that's why we have an alternative on our side of giving NASA, no, not NASA, these private companies, SpaceX and Blue Origin, human resources like engineers by placing things like space and astrology classes in universities or schools. And as a result, we believe that their point on how we read the motion incorrectly is completely false. Moving on to the next one. They also said that like, NASA tried to collaborate with SpaceX, so it proves that like governments like are effectively like helping SpaceX or something like that, right? They stated this, but you know why NASA collaborated with SpaceX? It's because NASA didn't have any rockets to launch. They are so underdeveloped, and they are so far behind on their like rocket science. Yes.
So you keep talking about that NASA is like bad and we should like support the things. However, isn't like the topic is about the governments should aggressive funding and not about NASA?
NASA is government funded, and NASA is owned by the government. So I don't think you really know who NASA is owned by or things like that. Now, moving on. So as a result, like because of the fact that NASA was so underdeveloped that they couldn't even have rockets and rocket launchers, this completely proves our point. Like SpaceX and these private companies do better. Moving on to the next one, bro. They also stated that like space exploration and like the space lore was good because we developed like a lot of space, like, and then we like learned a lot about space. That's like literally saying that nuclear war is good because we can just launch nuclear bombs at each other and figure out which nuclear bomb is better, right? And things like, and did you even know that during the space war, the USSR actually tried to develop a technology that could launch nuclear rockets from the moon so that they could strike America and try to win the space war? You probably did not. There are points on how like the space war was so great and like everyone benefited from completely false. Now, moving on, like we would also just like to state that it's too much power for one country, and countries will do anything to privatize space. Moving on to our next rebuttal, they also had no alternative and no mechanism. They are just stating advantages of space exploration, and we literally never said that space exploration was bad. And as a result, we believe that at least our side has taken this debate home today. And now I would like to move on to the most debated point in today's debate. So, what is the most debated point in today's debate? Well, we believe that it is developing society and like actually like supporting SpaceX and these private companies better, or making the government fund these companies by using all the taxpayers' money. Well, we believe that this is our side, and how we should develop more on society and on SpaceX and these other private companies. This is because of the fact that these people, you are trying to fund like NASA and all these other companies, even though they literally haven't developed for 60 years, and as a result, they can't even like develop properly, and as a result, these taxpayers will have to pay like so much money, and it will be so unbeneficial for society, and all these poor people will also lose like so much money because of the fact that they will have to pour in so much more money from than normally, because they need to like develop NASA, and it's not even for their own good. It's just like they need to go to like, they don't even state the point on how we should like go to colonies and things like that. And these poor people and like these people who pay the taxes aren't benefited from this. And as a result, we believe on our side, we are building a world in which these people will actually be able to live peacefully, and we will still be able to have good space exploration, even better than theirs, because NASA is so underdeveloped. And as a result, we believe this is why we have taken this debate home today. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Speaker, we would like to say that we completely take this debate home because of 5 questions that are prepared. Let's go straight into them. The first question that I have is about efficiency. It's definitely us, because you don't like on our side, like you have like the government side probably has like the dream or the goal like of the NASA, right? The NASA can like explore space freely, right? But these are already, your goals are already achieved by SpaceX and these privatized companies. Why are you trying to like take these why are you trying to make NASA trying to follow up when it's so inefficient to actually do this, right? We think that like it's just in terms of efficiency, the money that is actually being spent, like trillions, even billions and even trillions of dollars, has to be spent over also a long period of time for NASA to develop as much as SpaceX, where SpaceX would have been already developing more, right? So in terms of efficiency, we definitely take this debate home, and the government cannot argue with this. The second question that I have is that they like the technology, right? Like SpaceX literally can fly to the space like an airplane, where they can like operate the spaceship like airplane, and we think that in terms of technology, where NASA is currently underfunded, and we think that like in terms of also technology, we think that our companies are better. And also we would like to remind you, Mr. Speaker, that our companies are more motivated to have better development than the other side, because the government has no incentives to develop, while our side, we are profit driven because of the gold and these kind of things in the moon. So we think that our companies would try to develop creative and more better solutions, and that is why in terms of technology and also the technology's impact in the long term, it's actually good for our side as well, right? So the fourth question that I have is about the society, right? We have to think about where the money from, when we actually look at the government's best case, where the money would actually come from, right? It's from taxes, right? So the society, like they would complain so much because they have like literally given like so much tax, but then the government just uses it on space fund, where there is SpaceX that could already develop it better, right? So the citizens will also be very angry with the government, while they could maybe fund a little bit on poverty with the money, fund a little bit of more public infrastructures with the money, where it is so efficient for the citizens. And that is why in terms of society and also technology and efficiency, our side takes this debate, right? And also in terms of companies, right? When the government step out of this market and try to encourage and I mean that they step out the market and maybe they try to implement like public education on astrology, so that like SpaceX can have more mechanics in the future. Like we think that the companies can more creatively, since they are like monopolizing the market in a good way and have no competitions, they can like more creatively get more ideas, which is such just in terms of every aspect. We we think that our side is better, and we like to remind that like they have no definition. The government has no definition or whatsoever of how they will fund like these companies, and they have no alternative. So our side takes this debate home definitely. Thank you.
As a reply speaker, I'll first point out the strength and weakness of the two team. So the population team was able to clearly explain our three benefits and clearly argue why it's better and why it's more efficient. So yeah, so our first benefit, scientific discovery, space exploration expands our knowledge of space, and second, our technological innovation, and which can develop in like our everyday life, such as satellite communication, GPS navigation, medical imaging, environmental monitoring, and etc. And lastly, our third argument about the economic benefits, and we explain why it would help all sorts of problems in Earth, such as the people starving. But opposition was like saying that they're more efficient and saying those stuff. However, they were also talking about like airplanes and like people going on the moon recently, but that didn't even happen a lot in the last decade. And yeah, and they also went a bit off topic by saying just a conflict between like the people will like make a nuclear bomb more than like people are gonna die or something like that, which even is not gonna happen probably. And so I'll move on to my world comparison. In this debate, there are two main stakeholders, I believe. And the first stakeholder is the population. Under their team, individuals will the first stakeholder is the population and individuals. Under their team, individuals will suffer for the limited technologies about space. They're gonna use all the resources from Earth, but while if the astronomical problems happen, then they can't do anything because of the like technologies and information they have. We can prove this by evidence of we know that people are not going to moon these days and they're less interested about space. In the last decade, like there's no news about like someone went to the moon or someone landed on the moon. There's like nothing about it. But opposition believes that people are there, which is we call it false. And under our team, citizens will be more better and have a qualified life because the government is keeping the funds and continues the space exploration, which companies like I said are not actually working on it and making individuals better and living in a better environment. Our second stakeholder is a society and everyone. So under their team, the society is like not like interested in space, which they can't improve a lot in technologies, and they're like I said, done with resources, no more, and they're like underdeveloped because they only did like they funded technology, but they didn't like aggressively fund. So like they can't have a lot of improvements. So they're however in under our team, the society is having a better life because like the advance and benefits of space exploration, like we explained, because they're continuously aggressively funding the space exploration, and that's why we take this debate home. Absolutely, thank you.